Look, I was a lawyer who really enjoyed law for a while, and then I didn't want to do it anymore. I would cry on my way to the office. I would um, have clients that I loved and work that I hated. I enjoyed the practice. I had so much luck in the work I was doing. It was very collaborative in my firm. I could have gone all the way, I could have owned the firm, and I wasn't happy. And I knew that it wasn't for me. And even though I had all the flexibility in the world and all the possibility, I still had difficulty leaving my practice. And so I wanted to be able to help other people. And especially, I wanted to be able to help women lawyers have a practice that they love, have a practice that fits into their life, have a practice that you can go to work satisfied, enjoying what you do, and knowing that the work you do is absolutely in alignment with your values. And this sounds so coachy, preachy, I don't know, it's all the things. But what I think is really important is to remember that we do have choices and to make the choices we can within the parameters of what is possible. And I think that there are lots of times when you're in the middle of your practice, when you're in the middle of doing all the time, that you sometimes forget that you have other possibilities, that it is not binary, it's not black and white, it's not yes or no, it's something in between. And so that's what I'm hoping that this channel is talking to you about what's in between. So if there's something that you really hate in your practice, for example, you hate the legal marketing that you're doing, you're speaking to other attorneys, giving CLEs because when you were a new attorney, your supervisor, your lead attorney, your mentor attorney at the time gave CLEs in order to bring clients in order to bring referrals in. And so you're doing this and you feel like an absolute imposter. You don't enjoy it. Um, it doesn't seem to be bringing in any clients, even though you do it over and over again. And what I'm here to say is that you don't have to do it that way. And you do have to market your firm. Obviously, you have to bring clients in, but there isn't just one way to do it. And there isn't even the idea that just because something was successful for someone else doesn't mean that you have to follow their exact path. And so, what I'm here for is to bring other possibilities for you to find something that really fits you, that you enjoy doing, so that you can market your firm your way as opposed to their way. I also want us to consider that there are other ways to manage our client files that instead of being overwhelmed by the number of matters you have and the tasks that you have to do, that you, as the law firm owner, can start to extricate yourself from the tasks themselves and truly begin to lead your firm as opposed to working in your firm. So, those are things that interest me as well. I really believe that now is the time for you to have a more flexible, profitable, sustainable law firm. I remember when I went to my 10th year reunion, and at the time, I wasn't a lawyer. I hadn't even gone to law school. But I met so many bright, talented, gifted women who were from former lawyers. And this at a time was when we were all 28 or so. They had already quit the practice of law because there wasn't a place for them. And essentially, most of them had worked in large law firms, big law of some sort, M500 maybe, or even above. And they didn't want that life. And at the time, there was only do this or quit. Those seem to be the only choices. And I actually feel bad for the profession of law because it lost all those brilliant minds. There wasn't the idea that you could be a partner and also work part time. There wasn't the idea that you could be a parent and be a lawyer and still contribute fully to the firm. There wasn't the idea that you could handle a book of practice and handle a group of clients as well as collaborate with other lawyers in your firm on their practices. And none of this was valued. And I think that law has such a huge brain drain that we are losing bright and talented and gifted lawyers every day because we as a profession are unwilling to change. And truthfully, since 2020, the practice of law has changed a lot. In fact, for me personally, I in in the late 20 teens, I was no longer really excited about law. I kept trying to reinvigorate my own practice and doing several experiments, which I can talk about another time. And so one of those experiments was I was going to try some traveling, some digital nomading, and continuing my practice. Now, this was made easier because my practice is a federal practice. It was intellectual property. So it was something that I was primarily practicing remotely anyway. I had taken several steps to facilitate this and in the work I was doing. I was working with people. It was back in the day when I had to teach people how to use Zoom, which seems funny now, but I did a lot of education with my clients and my coworkers and that sort of thing so that I could continue my practice, but also travel. And so I spent about 8 or 9 months traveling through Southeast Asia, and I had a wonderful time. I missed traveling. I traveled a lot when I was younger. I had lived overseas for several years, and because of life circumstances, I had been in the US for a significant period of time, and I had not been able to travel. And so, in one way, this was absolutely freeing and absolutely wonderful. And I loved it. And then in 2020, circumstances, again, life circumstances, I think we all had a little bit of that. And I had a moment of, is that all there is? And so instead of ramping up my legal practice, which is something I was really considering doing, I'm fortunate enough to be licensed in 3 states. I still have my licenses, two of them are inactive. California and Texas are inactive, and I keep New York alive. Um, and at the time, I was really considering ramping up my practice, working more remotely, working with a larger team, really doing more work with the burgeoning digital nomad scene. I was scheduled in, I think it was March or April of 2020, to go on what they call the Nomad Cruise, which is basically a cruise ship repositioning trip that they invite digital nomads of all kinds of flavors to come and be on. And this was all planned. And then 2020 hit. And so everything changed. And part of that change was I didn't want to ramp up my practice. I didn't want to expand it to embrace all the technology that would allow me to not only do um, the managing and providing of legal services that I really was doing at the time, but also to add an educational component onto that so that I could really work with first stage entrepreneurs in developing their legal portfolio as well as teaching them how to, for example, what is a good trademark, and not only from a legal sense, but from a marketing point of view. And then I decided that wasn't for me and I wasn't so interested anymore. And so I slowly came out of my legal practice. I sold um, what was left. And I started Law Transformed. And the whole idea for Law Transformed is that I can help individual law firm owners really transition their practice into one that they can enjoy, into one that fits their life circumstances at the moment, and talking everything from the minimal viable law practice, like what is the minimum viable law firm? What do you need? To expanding on what you have and really beginning to transition and think about, well, what is my life going to be like in 10 years when I want to retire from my practice and hopefully sell it? What is, what am I building now so that I can exit later in a way that I like? Um, and there are lots of reasons for this. Some of it happened when I was in law school. I actually worked with California Lawyers for the Arts, which at the time was an organization that provided legal referral services as well as mediation arbitration services. And I was lucky to work in both sections, and I really enjoyed that. But I remember the day when we got a call from one of the clients that we had referred, and they couldn't get a hold of their lawyer in Sacramento, and they had called and called and called and didn't didn't have any response, and they had a court date coming up. And so, because I was the person on the desk, I went ahead and called the office in Sacramento, and I happened to reach the lawyer's wife, who was there cleaning out the office after her husband had died of a brain tumor. And it was just happenstance that I called at a time when she was there and she was able to answer the phone. And it was one of those circumstances where she had no idea what to do with his clients and with his matter. She was literally just there cleaning things out so that they didn't have to continue to pay rent on the space. And it was then that I realized that most lawyers don't plan for this. We don't plan for the terminal illness. We don't plan for unexpected sickness. Lots of us don't even have wills. We're the worst, right? It's doctor, heal thyself. So it it became more and more apparent to me that people need help with this, that we know we need to do it, and we know things need to be changed, not only to be able to exit our firms, to be able to take care of our clients if something happens, but also to really even consider that we could have a different kind of practice, to know what's out there, to know what the possibilities are, and to bring down what seems like an overwhelming amount of work to something small and practical and that you can start on right now. So, this is my intention with Law Transformed. This is my intention with this channel. And I love talking about this stuff. If there is anything that you would like to talk about specifically, any questions you have, any concerns you have about transitioning your practice, or what you might be able to do to make more money, because that's always a thing, um, then please feel free to contact me. There will be a link down below that you can schedule a free consultation. Um, and feel free to leave a message, leave a comment, ask your questions. I'm here and I'm really interested in talking with you further. So I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you are beginning to think about possibility for your law practice, and happy lawyering.